bottom, a door led into the basement of the building. Above the door, a small hand-painted sign read, Granny's. How did you find this place? Sasha asked. Katrina shrugged. Lucky, I guess. And would that be good luck or bad luck? Sasha asked with a wink. They were immediately struck not by the jumbled mess of the store, but by the overpowering odors of spices, incense, and other unidentifiable smells. Sasha gagged and coughed. Katrina smiled and took a deep breath. After a couple of minutes, Sasha got to the point that she could breathe the spiced soup atmosphere of the store. The room occupied by the store was long and narrow, like the inside of a school bus. Running down the center of the room were floor-to-ceiling display shelves. Between the shelves on the walls and the ones in the middle, they had to turn sideways to navigate between the overstuffed, shrunken-head pillows and porcelain vampire teeth. After half an hour of searching, they returned to the front of the store empty-handed. I thought you said there were voodoo dolls here. Responded Katrina. Well, they do have some pretty creepy dolls. She stretched out and stroked the wind chimes made of animal fangs. We'll see. Sasha stormed off to the counter. A large black woman, who looked old enough to be a great-grandmother, was flipping through a copy of a fashion magazine. Look, can you help us? She demanded. The woman turned the page and continued her perusing. Remember, she's invisible. Before she could yell at the clerk, Katrina touched her on the shoulder. Here, let me try, invisible girl. Katrina cleared her throat. The woman looked up in surprise. Well, child, you gave Granny a bit of a start. You know, I get so tied up in my reading that I miss an earthquake. What can Granny do for you, child? Sasha groaned and turned away in disgust. Would she be ignored forever, moving as a ghost through the world? She shook that thought from her head and turned around while Katrina chatted with Granny. As she turned, she noticed a narrow doorway with a beaded curtain leading into another room. An employees only sign was hanging conspicuously on the wall by the door. Walking up, she pushed some of the beads aside and peered in. Piles of various shaped small boxes filled the room. In the middle of the mess, a girl, no older than herself, sat at the table. A pile of empty boxes littered the floor around her feet. The girl looked up as Sasha parted the curtain. Cocking her head to one side, she stared directly into Sasha's eyes. The good girl stood up and walked over, looked Sasha up and down. Sasha felt she should move back away, but she was transfixed by the pitch-black eyes of the other girl. Stopping less than a foot in front of Sasha, the girl smiled. You're supposed to be invisible. She turned and walked back to her table. When the eye contact was broken, Sasha felt as if she had been released. It's not a very good job, cheap work. Tell that to everyone at school. The girl shrugged. The Force can have a strong influence on the weak-minded. Wait, you can see me? Sasha stormed into the room. How come? Granny sees much, knows even more. Sasha shook her head. Your Granny? Then who? She gestured with her thumb back towards the counter. Oh, that's Rachel. Plays the part, well, tourists love her. But that doesn't explain how you can see me. Granny sees much and knows more, yeah. I got the fortune cookie version earlier. The young Granny dropped her smile. You, girl, are the victim of voodoo. Weak, cheap voodoo. Who did you tick off? Some girl at school is taking a digital voodoo course, and I'm her big project. Digital voodoo. She spat on the floor. Digital voodoo is a charlatan's game, a trick of mirrors, sleight of hand, not true magic. As she spoke, her voice grew louder and deeper, like it was speaking into a 50-gallon drum. I'll tell you what you do, girl. Do you have any social media accounts with your pictures on it? Well, duh. Young Granny shook her head. People never understand the power of personal items. Change your picture. Doesn't matter to what. As long as you're not in the picture. But are you going to listen or talk? Because if you want to talk, you can talk outside. Sasha pouted. Right. Now, you change your picture. She'll have no more power over you. She can't do anything beyond what she's already done to you. Then you have to take your identity back from her. You do that, and you'll be visible to the world again. Sasha stared at her intently. Their gazes locked for what seemed like minutes. Finally, young Granny spoke. Okay, you can talk now. How do I take my identity back? Easy way? You kill her. Sasha pondered for an instant. And the hard way? Granny smiled. It's hard because no one can tell you. It's your life. You're the only one who can figure out how to get it back. But I don't know. Then as Master Yoda would say, stuck like this you are. Why are you quoting Star Wars? We take good analogies where we can get them. Now go. I'm too busy with the dead today to worry about the invisible. Let's do it one more time. Yeah. So that's the some of the stories that are in here. From the people in the writing group, the people who've read them, the Sasha and Katrina stories are very popular. Just because they are fun like that. Okay. Oh, something I should have pointed out when we're talking about lockdown. We have these bookmarks, free, help yourself to them. I started off with 1,000, I think I'm down about 700. There's also a couple of these little posters of lockdown. Again, grab them if you like them. In the lockdown novel, one of the characters' names was Lance. He was one of the many villains, multiple villains in that particular book. He was a sociopath, really mean, but he was intelligent too. So in the writing group, when we were critiquing this, we come up with the phrase, what would Lance do? So I actually made little stickers of them, so if you'd like a what would Lance do sticker, which will make more sense if you read the book. Also up here is my contact information, websites, books I've written, even the Twitter if you'd like to follow me. We try and do more little presentations like this. Also, Locust Magazine. This is a magazine for the science fiction and fantasy community. And these are some old copies, so if anybody would like them, you can go ahead and grab them. If you'd like to be added to my mailing list, so if I'm doing events like this or anything else, I can also send it to you if you'll put your name up here. I will be selling some of my books later if anybody doesn't have any would like to. I'm going to do another song for you, and then we'll go on to the question and answer period of this. This song doesn't really have a name. I kind of called it John and Rosie. Again, I grabbed one guitar. Because I'm talking, not thinking. And this one doesn't really have a story behind it. I just made it up. However, as I said, it's a more up-tempo beat, and this is going to be a sing-along. Okay? Now, because you haven't heard the song before, you're not going to be able to sing along with the verses. You will be able to, however, sing along with the choruses. And the chorus is, our love will run like a river. Our love will roll like the sea. Our love, forever and ever, so good in your company. Okay? Say it with me. Our love will run like a river. Our love will roll like the sea. Our love, forever and ever, so good in your company. Your company. Okay. Now, the first song I did for you didn't actually have a chorus. And this one here, even though it has a chorus, we don't sing the chorus until we get to the end. And we make up for that by singing the chorus over and over again. Now, if you feel like clapping, go ahead. If you're inspired to dance, just move to the back. Okay. We'll see how you like it. Sailing John, sailed upon the sea. Wet in the blue light. like a dancer, she should come away with me. Maybe if I open my heart and let her see what's inside me. So I said, our love will run like a river, our love will roll like the sea, our love forever and ever, so good in your company. Rosie said, well, if we get married, John ran out to find a priest. They were married and sailed off together in a ship they loved hope and peace. Singing, our love will flow like a river, our love will roll like the sea, our love forever and ever, so good in your company. Our love will run like a river, our love will roll like the sea, our love forever and ever, so good in your company. Just the women. Our love will run like a river, and me. Our love will roll like the sea, our love forever and ever, so good in your company. The men. Our love will run like a river, our love will roll like the sea, our love forever and ever, so good in your company. Whisper. Our love will run like a river, our love will roll like the sea, our love forever and ever, so good in your company. Loud. Our love will run like a river, our love will roll like the sea, our love forever and ever, so good in your company. Last time. Our love will run like a river, our love will roll like the sea, our love forever and ever, so good in your company. Okay. Questions? You guys want to ask me anything? Yes.
When did you first remember being interested in science fiction?
As a kid, I'm not sure how young, watching television and movies, things were related to science fiction. I just found those fascinating and fun. I don't remember the very first time. And then I got into reading, and this was back in the 70s, so I was reading Asimov and Heinlein and Clark and Bradbury. And I liked, also liked quite a bit the short story collections, and I read it from the shortest story to the longest story. So, they were kind of quicker to go through things that way, reading a variety of short stories, go through more ideas and things in a short period of time. Yeah.
Tim, how long ago did you learn to play guitar, and how many guitars do you own?
I own 2 guitars. I'll do that.
Oh, those are the 2?
I started playing at about the age of 15. I had, my father played trumpet, so we had a trumpet around the house, and I started with trumpet in elementary school, and then my grandmother thought I should take piano lessons, so she forced me to take piano lessons and forced me to practice. I actually got somewhat good at it, but I didn't enjoy practicing, so once I wasn't forced anymore, I stopped that. And then I saw how much attention the guy with the guitar got. And I was in my teens, and that started to become important, so I picked up the guitar, and I found I enjoyed practicing it. So from 1974 till my early 20s, I'd play on average 2 or 3 hours a day, because I just enjoyed playing more songs and things. And then got married to Julie, and we had children, and I kind of put the guitar aside, and I've only been playing it 2 or 3 times a year, up until maybe a year ago. Children gotten older, gone off to college, and had free time, so I started playing again. And I'm back to playing, an hour or 2 a day, most days.
Very good.
I get the attention from the woman. She likes me to serenade her. Yes.
So when's the sequel to Lockdown coming out?
I'm going to try and have that ready for next summer. That's the goal. That's the thing about
Kind of left in hand.
making books, you try and have one out every year in order to get all the variants. Sorry, Jess?
You kind of left it hanging at the end of there.
Well, yeah, in some ways it's a classical ending, you know, where the hero solves his problem, the parties separate, he's going off to do something else. So it's kind of a classic ending and also kind of a cliffhanger. But the next book is, other than Lance and Samuel, it's going to have a completely new cast of characters, and of course the whole kind. The new and fun, interesting things are going to be going about. Its title is going to be The Last Stand.
Are you self-published, or who is your publisher of your books?
My publisher is a company called Quantum Muse Books.
Okay.
That
so
name
you
should
publish-
sound
you
familiar.
stop- you- Oh, I didn't realize that you published through that too, that's.
Yeah, actually, I run the website, and I self-published, but spending like $15 extra, I can set up my own publishing company.
So are you publishing any of the other authors on the site?
Not as yet. I've been trying to find out how to sell books. Once I come up with a good stream of being able to do that, then I'm going to look for other authors to be part of that company. Unless somebody really wants to, and then we'll work together on it. Larry?
Tim, have you heard of a magazine called Analog?
Yes.
The reason I ask is because I started, my brother's had a subscription since he was 12, 14, something like that. Mind you, he's 2 years younger than myself. And I used to borrow his copy when we were kids, and I started reading it. And I cannot remember to this day if I started seeing the first Doom novel released maybe a chapter at a time in Analog. Does that ring a bell at all?
I don't know about that.
Okay. The other question is, how many hours a night of sleep do you get? Because I don't know how you do all this stuff. I'd like to know your secret, or at least, you know.
The secret
Maybe a
is,
hint.
the secret is pretty much time management.
You must be very good at it.
You know, you get home, eat, and then you have several hours to do something in. You can watch television, which I do too much of.
No,
But if you don't spend too much time watching television, doing stuff like that, then you have time to do some of these things if you spend the energy to do it.
When you write, do you like think of a storyline first and then you create characters to go with it, or you think of characters first and then you create the story to go with it? And my second question is, have you named your guitars?
Oh, good question. I'll answer the guitar question first. These guitars are made by a company called Seagull. It's a Canadian company. They're New Hampshire distributors out of Berlin, New Hampshire. I'm from Berlin, so. But anyways, because these are Seagull guitars, and that's a 6-string and a 12-string, they are SG6 and SG12. For a starting
Wait.
And your other question was, my process. It varies. Sometimes I write a story, I have an idea in my head about what in most stories I like to write and like to read, there's some sort of twist at the end. And therefore I quite often think of the twist first, what's going to be the big catch, and then kind of backfill, what characters do I need to be able to do this and how the storyline should flow. Other times, there's this writing drill, a practice thing that you do where I just sit and write. Whatever comes into your mind, you write. And I've had several stories come out of that. So sometimes it's just sit down, write, and see what happens. The first session, Katrina Stories, actually was supposed to be a serious reflection on the life of women warriors in the fantasy world. And they're sitting in a tavern having this conversation about guys. And how one was thinking about maybe settling down, and it turned into a bar fight. Anyway, and what was interesting is I had this idea in my mind of how things were supposed to go, and as soon as I started writing the characters, they took over. And they did something completely different than I had intended at all. And then these characters grew out of it. They went from there to facing down a giant rat who is supposedly the god of nature, to this one here with a digital voodoo to a time travel story. And there's going to be, and the story that I just read you was the first place that Granny appears. And I like the Granny character so much, and other people did, so Granny's in the next story and probably be in most of them. Yes?
When you watch TV, do you watch the Sci-Fi Channel?
We do not have cable. So the only thing we can watch is what we can get on Netflix or YouTube and stuff like that. So, but when we did have cable, I watched sci-fi. And now with YouTube, I try and find all the good science fiction or fantasy.
Well, it's kind of comedy, than sci-fi. Lately, it's more comedy than sci-fi.
Yeah, I haven't been on the Sci-Fi Channel in a long time.
Spiders eating people.
Flying sharks.
Back in the 60s. You see, what happened was, I used to travel a lot for work. When I was in a hotel room, then I could, watch the Sci-Fi Channel because they generally had them in hotels. But we switched over to using GoToMeeting, which we're doing now to show this to several other people in different places. And so I don't travel nearly as much, so I don't get to see any of these channels in hotel rooms. How long have you been writing? I have been writing for, about 17 years. Most of that, some of it's been off and on, some of it's been, yeah. Maybe I'll get a little bit more now that the children left home. At least the grandchildren arrived, and I don't know what's going to happen. Yes?
I was going to ask, are you eccentric about like where and when you write? Like, do you write early in the morning, like at 4 o'clock, in a corner? Does everything have to be quiet? I don't, or do you just do it randomly?
I mostly write in the evenings because I don't get early up. I don't get up early enough to write. I have to get ready to go to work.
Yeah.
But so I'll write in the evenings, and I am down in the basement. We have a computer, a desktop computer, where I have a nice ergonomic keyboard.
Would you like to travel more?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
This is Carl and Carolyn, my employers. They're kind enough to come out tonight.
We're honored.
If anyone is considering a career as a writer, the single most important thing to have is a good job. So thank you.
What is that, your day job?
I'm a software developer.
Tell them how long we've been working together.
Is it past 25 yet?
Well,
It's over 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know the
it's
time.
close to 25, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah.
And
1980
something.
87, maybe.
Okay.
How many books have you published?
Just the two so
Just
far.
those two.
Yeah.
Who are some of your favorite authors?
I liked Asimov a lot. As a teenager.
Did he just pass recently?
That was a while ago. Yeah. I like Robert Lynn Asprin. And actually, my favorite author is Mercedes Lackey. Don't know if anybody's ever read anything by her. But again, when I used to travel, quite often I'd pick up a book to read in the plane. And for Mercedes Lackey, she's never written a book that didn't satisfy me. They've always been good, enjoyable books. There's one of my other favorite authors, the person who wrote my favorite book is Alan Dean Foster. He wrote a book, Sentenced to Prison. It's my favorite. But Foster writes really great stuff or lousy stuff. He's not consistent at all. He wrote a book called The Dig, which you should never waste your money on. Terrible. But I actually got to interview him for Quantum Muse. He was very gracious. I like him personally. I like the good stuff he writes. I hate the bad stuff he writes. Other questions?
So when you go from here, I know you're working on the next book,
Yeah.
but any other, You're writing like a screenplay or something for a movie? Cool.
Looking for another chance to perform?
Yeah. Something where I could be actually prepared. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, this was a quickly thrown together thing because I waited at the last minute to get people together to do it. And we didn't select you until the day we're going to do the actual video. I don't know, people who watch the video at the very end, you can actually see her.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, from where I was sitting when we were filming this, I couldn't see her, but the camera was.
Still.
I don't want to redo the whole thing, but that's okay. That's not too bad.
Why does that video seem really familiar to me?
I don't know, why does that video seem very unfamiliar to you?
It couldn't have anything to do with your body of work, could it?
Well, yeah, it's a short story out of, it's a flash fiction piece called Expectations out of this book.
And speaking of, I'm sorry, I can't remember, I haven't got the title of the book memorized, but where did the inspiration for Blades come from? What would you call that type of writing?
The Blades is a flash fiction piece, and very, very short. The Blades story is, I don't know, maybe like 300 words. And that was just writing for the fun of it. I didn't have a real...
I don't know what to call that. You start, I don't want to be a spoiler, but you start the story and it turns out to be something very different than you expected. Is there a phrase to describe that?
The twist.
Surprise.
It's kind of fun to write that way, to write a story where everything has to make complete sense, and the reader thinks it's going one place, and then when you get there, it's something completely different.
I really enjoyed that. That may have been my favorite book, by the way.
Some people might enjoy it, some people might feel cheated.
I thought it was great.
All right. Well, we have refreshments over there. Cheesecake, cookies, drinks.
One more question.
Yeah.
I want to buy the books and myself.
Come up and talk to me afterwards.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're not going to.
Well, yeah, this
We'll
book.
make a deal.
This book is $7.95. This one is $8.95. If you want to buy both of them, instead of, I'll knock $1 off and make it $16. And I have a box of them up here if anybody would like some. And
Is the
brought
class
change.
actually getting one of them?
They're already all autographed.
Oh.
Right there. Any other questions? Everybody wants to eat, huh?
Yeah, now that you told us it's food.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.